In court, my aunt handed over an invoice for raising me after my mom died, listing food, clothes, and shelter, totaling $50,000. There are some wounds that never truly heal, especially when they're inflicted by the very people who promised to protect you. My Aunt Sophie taught me that lesson the hard way, by dragging me into a courtroom, demanding payment for the childhood she made a living hell. My name is Althea and I'm 26, just a newly graduated nurse, finally ready to chase big dreams. But instead of celebrating, I found myself sitting in that sterile courtroom, staring across the aisle at my own aunt, as she sued me for what she claimed were my childhood expenses. It was surreal, devastating, and the culmination of years of quiet torment. Before all this darkness, my world was filled with warmth. My amazing mom, Amanda, raised me herself after my dad passed away when I was just 3. Money was always tight in our small 2-bedroom apartment, but mom had a way of making sure I never felt like we were struggling. She was a nurse at Memorial Hospital, working long, demanding shifts, but she'd always come home with incredible stories about saving lives, about making a real difference. Those stories, they were the seeds that grew into my own dream of becoming a nurse. Weekends were sacred. Saturday mornings, our tiny kitchen would fill with the comforting scent of vanilla and chocolate as we baked cookies. Sundays were for the park, feeding ducks, or getting lost in the library. Mom always said, Althea, education is the one thing nobody can ever take from you. Our apartment walls were a colorful gallery of my artwork and school certificates. Mom kept every single one, displaying them like precious museum pieces. When I brought home good grades, she'd stick them on the fridge with fruit magnets and dance around the kitchen in pure celebration. For my 10th birthday, she surprised me with a children's medical kit. I carried that thing everywhere, taking my stuffed animal's temperatures and listening to her heartbeat with the plastic stethoscope. You'll be wearing a real one someday, she'd say, her eyes crinkling with pride. Our life wasn't perfect, but it was ours. Mom worked extra shifts during holidays to make sure Christmas mornings and birthdays were special. She taught me to appreciate what we had, to be grateful rather than yearning for what we didn't. Gratitude makes any life rich. She'd remind me when I occasionally complained about not having the latest toys or fancy clothes like my classmates. Everything changed the summer I turned 12. Mom started coming home from work more exhausted than usual. At first, she blamed extra shifts, but then she began losing weight rapidly, a persistent cough racking her body. I'd catch her wincing in pain when she thought I wasn't looking, popping painkillers after I was supposedly asleep. The day she finally went to the doctor, I waited at our neighbor Mrs. Thomas's apartment, trying to focus on a science project, but my mind was a whirlwind of worry. When Mom returned, her face told me everything before she said a word. Stage 4 lung cancer. Terminal. 6 months to a year. Those words didn't just crash into our happy little world. They obliterated it. Mom tried to maintain normalcy, but our roles slowly reversed. I started making dinner, doing laundry, helping her to bed when she was too weak to walk. I kept a meticulous notebook of her medication schedule, becoming fiercely protective of her diminishing energy. School became secondary as I transformed into my mother's caretaker. My 12-year-old shoulders carried the weight of groceries, household chores, and the creeping dread of what was coming. Friends stopped calling because I couldn't go out anymore, but I didn't care. Every moment with Mom became precious, measured, finite. The hospice nurse started visiting daily when Mom could no longer get out of bed. I'd sit beside her, reading her favorite books or just holding her increasingly frail hand. "You're so strong, Althea," she'd whisper. "Promise me you'll keep going. Keep shining after I'm gone." On a quiet Tuesday morning just 3 weeks after my 13th birthday, Mom took her last breath while I held her hand. The hospice nurse found me still sitting there an hour later, unable to let go. Full story on the channel. Link below. Click now and watch what happened next.